Hello everyone and welcome to State of the Realm, your weekly Final Fantasy XIV podcast. This week we're going to be doing a mid-expansion review. Not much else to talk about, and we like to always take a look at things halfway through and see how ideas are panning out, especially since FanFest is a very hot topic and we're looking forward to that coming soon. We're also going to be getting someone in particular's thoughts on the Heaven on High lore, since we haven't had him on the show in a while, which should tell you one of our guests before I even introduce him. But to do that show, we're going to need some people. So I'm one of your hosts, Michael, Mr. Happy Pogrom. Of course, joining me is Slyh, aka Slythefox, aka Slyh, aka Greyfox, aka Simple Slyh. There you go. See, I did remember it.
Hi.
Simple Slyh.
Yeah. I'm simple.
Yeah. Trust me, you guys don't want to know how that conversation came to be. Because it's just
are you sure?
Yeah, no, I'm sure. I mean, the people in the pre-show know, and that's knowledge that they can now take with them to the grave. Okay.
All
right.
It's nothing new.
It's nothing new. Just it's all I guess compressed. I guess we'll call it. There you go. And we made him wake up as early as possible in the morning, despite the cold evenings he's been having, and that would be Ethys Asher. How you doing, Ethys?
Hello. I'm good. How are we, everyone?
I'm doing good. I'm feeling real slick with my summer wear right now.
You say you're trying to fit in California, but you've never looked more of a Jersey douchebag.
Nobody in New Jersey would wear a cup noodle hat. And trust me, sunglasses is way more. People in New Jersey, they just say fuck it, just hit me in the face.
I kind of feel like sunglasses are universal though.
Yeah, I see them a lot more in California than
like
I did back in
universal douchebag. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no. So universal douchebag is the not so shaven face, the sunglasses, and a white tee. So I've got that going right now. Yeah, that's a good one. I like this one. Nice wig, Ethys.
Well, have you not seen me in the last 6 months? I've been growing my hair. It grows.
I think it looks beautiful.
Thank you.
I just want to say the show is not brought to you by Cup Noodle. I just happen to be wearing this on top.
One day we're gonna nail that sponsorship, and we're gonna get free cup noodles. One day.
They sent me some cup noodles. I don't know why. I got a random box of cup noodle the other day with like seafood and curry cup noodles in it. I was like, I don't know how I got it. That's where I got the hat.
Why would they sponsor you when you're doing it already?
Exactly. They just give me a shirt, and now they just need to give me the noodle sword. And I'll be good. They do have
curry cup noodles.
They do have a noodle sword.
Boxes.
Just so you know, do have a noodle sword.
I saw a photo of you with the noodle sword. I thought you had one.
No, they just let me take the picture. I need to get it. I need to own it. There you
go.
So while the show may not be sponsored by Cup Noodle, it is sponsored by Steel Series. It's on the sunglasses. So we picked a winner for last week's giveaway. Just doing a little reminder that the July giveaway for Steel Series is going on for State of the Realm. So if you go to the YouTube video, anything between State of the Realm 173 and 176 should have a giveaway at the bottom for the month of July. So be sure to go do that. If you're watching on Twitch, go to the YouTube for like 5 minutes. Go do that. If you're watching on YouTube, do that now before we actually start talking about Final Fantasy XIV. Because I guess that's what this show is about. And now with that, this is going to make my head start itching, so I got to take it off. Hats and me don't get along. Hats and I don't get along, unfortunately. It's okay. But anyway, gentlemen, Ethys, first of all, thank you again for joining us.
Anytime.
Thank you.
We haven't had you on in a while. I was trying to wait until Pagos came out, and it's taken like 10 years. So
it has taken like 10 years, hasn't it? It's kind of
yeah. So I'm gonna start. I actually want to get your thoughts on that. Slyh and I had this discussion about we've been discussing whether or not the whole staggering of content is necessarily good. And we wanted to see how much it was staggered before determining it. Where do you stand on Pagos, since we haven't gotten your thoughts on that, and how far from the next patch it is and how far from the previous patch it was?
Well, I think staggering content is sort of a double-edged sword, isn't it? Because on one hand, it's nice that you can't blow through everything at once, right? And that you are logging in like every week and you have something to do. But at the same time, it's people's prerogative to blow through content in 24 hours. Like, if that's what they want to do, just let them do it, I think. So I don't know. I don't have any really strong feelings about it. I'm excited for it. It seems to be a very long time still from 4.4 though, doesn't it?
Only, I mean, it might be September 11th. So from when Pagos comes out, just about 4 weeks. You know, just a little bit more.
Which is a long time, I think, for Pagos.
I think that it's almost there, so people have something like secondary to work on when 4.4 comes out. Like things maybe they didn't get caught up with the previous patch, or they're not doing savage rating. But with the item level going up, it's like, how invested can you really be outside of just getting it done for the sake of getting it done?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Tough call, but while we're on the discussion of Pagos, something that I last minute want to add to the show because it came out this morning was the live letter digest, the official one. Because whenever we get the unofficial translations, you know, there's always 1 or 2 bits of information that comes up new, and I'll throw this in the chat, and then if you guys want to grab it from the chat, or I could throw it to you on Zoom. I should have maybe actually thrown the actual thread in instead of throwing the link that will then take you to the thread.
No, that's all right.
But they clarify a few things in there. And one of the things is regarding the 3rd tier of Eureka, because we're already talking about that. And they did confirm that the logo system is a system where you can temporarily attain a different role while fighting. The example they gave in the unofficial translation was a DPS tanking. So a literal blue DPS, pretty much.
How does that work?
That's what we want to know. I don't even understand. I just want to... Do you guys even have any thoughts on that? Like, why? Like, what is the purpose? Like, is it actually going to enhance gameplay in any way? Is it going to... Do people care? Like, I just... That's what I can't figure out.
You can take more red mages and just have one of them generate aggro. That's great.
Slyh is like...
Can I have more red
I
mages?
see you... Again, I love my res sluts, but like seriously, I don't know. I mean, other than maybe soloing or
like how do I as a monk attain healer status? Like who becomes other than red mage? I guess in some like who becomes a healer?
Like, your abilities aren't going to change, are they?
But that's the whole point. So then, how are you attaining a different role? Like you're either your abilities have to start healing, or they have to start generating enmity. Or if you are a tank or a healer, they have to deal more damage. I guess for tanks, being able to be a DPS might be probably, or healers, I guess, already being a DPS. You know.
Yeah, I mean the tank DPS, like that makes sense, but the healers. I mean, that's the thing. If you're a monk and you're you're just gonna turn into like a really shitty healer that doesn't actually have any heals, that somehow has the healer role.
Or you get a better bloodbath.
Maybe bloodbath spreads to everyone around you when you do it. And warriors can be like,
when you do damage.
Yes, yeah. or it becomes AOE. The warrior's just like, yes, and then they leave and it's gone. That's it. It's just a very awkward system to openly admit that you're going to have. Hello, Aloha, by the way. I didn't know you were down there. I moved my foot.
Yeah, you can't really like introduce something like that without really going into detail on it. Oh yeah, just by the way, we're gonna let like anyone do whatever role on whatever job in here.
Aren't they a lot more specific with
no questions,
details
please? No questions.
Aren't they a lot more specific when it comes to details like this? For stuff like this?
I think
they just go ahead and drop this and say, hey, that's it.
Yeah.
More details to come later. Which I do expect, but yeah.
I don't expect them to dish out all the details, but more than that, if you're going to say something like that, I feel like you have to back it up with at least just one extra sentence to some degree. And they didn't do that. They just said, yeah, you'll be able to be a different role.
So this are we expecting this to be, I guess, an experiment for something that they're going to release like more broadly than Pagos?
Probably not, to be honest. I mean, the only other places I could see that being useful is like deep dungeons. If you if you're pugging and you get 4 DPS and like someone's like, you know what, I kind of want to, I want this with this logo system. I guess I'll shift over to being more of something else. I don't see anywhere else it being useful, but it's awkward. It's just awkward.
Yeah, it seems really strange because I mean you can already switch between jobs freely while you're in Eureka. Like, why do you need more than that?
I don't know, Ethys. I don't know.
Please explain.
We'll find out in the future, as they have said. Not yet, but in the future.
Exciting.
4.4 something. Probably like live letter and probably a live letter at not at FanFest. Probably a live letter in October. Something like that. Live letter at FanFest is gonna be dead.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
If they're talking about Eureka or the live letter in FanFest, I'm gonna be like resident sleeper so hard.
Well, I mean, no, not the opening keynote, like because they do a keynote for the expansion, and the live letter is like about current, like some current stuff, upcoming stuff, and I'd imagine the next Eureka will either be just about to release after FanFest, or it'll have released just prior. One of the two.
Either way, I'm thinking we're getting some details at FanFest about Eureka. Most definitely.
Yeah. And if not the third one, they'll give us details about the fourth one. They'll do that a whole 4 months in advance again.
Hey, here's this system that's going to show up in like 6 months. Have fun.
There you go. And that's what they do with the expansion. They just give us a little bit. They give us little trickles.
It works.
They did also confirm that the third tier of Eureka will indeed see the return of armor upgrades. So I think we can pretty much write in that it is a Slyh. I mean, I feel the same way, but I think it is definitely an item level thing. They were afraid of the item level of it in Pagos. Just the question is, do they do it in the fourth tier? I love the audio listeners don't get to see that when Slyh does his little dances or his faces or
my little fake enthusiasm. Yeah, insert fake enthusiasm.
Here, I'll narrate it for our audio listeners. Just do it one time. Slyh raised his hands into the air like he just didn't care. He's shaking them left and right, and now they're open palms. He's doing it to the rhythm. I think it's to the rhythm of the song I just quoted. He's done. There you go.
Thank you.
That's for our audio listeners. Just for you. So armor to grind in the third tier. We have that confirmed. We also got confirmed the update to the Lost Canals of Uznair. They described how it's going to work.
Ooh.
So the unofficial translation said that you would have a choice between two paths. That was what the unofficial translation came to roughly. The official one says that when you enter Lost Canals, you're randomly thrown into one of two possible dungeons. The first one's the one we already know. The second one, instead of having a door opening mechanic, it's a roulette on the ground that spins to determine how your progress and bonus rewards actually end up working.
Is the dungeon any different, like aesthetically?
I don't know. There's no mention of that. It just says it introduces a new mechanic. It's a new dungeon that features a giant roulette on the ground.
So we're getting Slyh in 14, right? Okay, good. Yeah.
What? you wanna explain that real quick?
P5, Slyh. Yeah. Remember the roulette wheel?
I'm well aware.
Yeah.
It's just
no idea.
I feel like you can't just say it and expect everyone to get there. I want full explanation, We're getting it, yeah. And then other than that, I don't think there's really too much. They mentioned a little bit more. They let people know the exact location of the gate, which is the ruins of Sildee, for the jump puzzle that they're going to be doing.
That's like a 2,000-year-old ruin, right? A priceless part of Thanalin's history, and Godbert Mandeville is like, let's jump on it. Let's have millions of people jumping on it every day. That seems good. Could you imagine being an Eorzean archaeologist and like getting this proposal from Godbert? Yeah, so I'm just gonna let like all the adventurers just like climb and jump all over your dig site if that's cool. Yeah, well, listen, I'm Godbert Mandeville, and I just do what I want. So, I'm just going to go ahead and do it, and you can just suck it.
What's weirder for me? It's like he clearly has to rent out the space, and he's clearly got a lot of money, but it's not like we pay to go on the ride. Like, if we don't pay Gil to go on the ride.
Yeah, but he's Santa Claus.
I know he's Santa Claus. He's Santa Claus if he didn't wear pants.
Yeah. He's literally Santa Claus.
Slyh, you really
you're gonna question who pays for all these toys, Santa Claus? No one does. Santa.
Dude, Godbert is Santa and the elves. and the reindeer.
Exactly.
By the way, for those audio listeners, Slyh threw his hands in the air again, confused, wondering how could this happen.
Thank you.
I've got you for the audio listeners in particular. I'm New Jersey. I do this with my hands a lot. Oh, for the audio listeners, I'm waving my hands around. So I understand. I'm from New Jersey. I speak with my hands. But yeah, and they're going to be renting out more locations at this, which I know you're a fan of.
I mean, are you a fan? You sound a little perturbed by it.
No, I mean, it's kind of going to be weird from like a lore perspective. But more than that, I just don't enjoy jumping puzzles that much. Like the platforming mechanics in 14 are almost as bad as they are in 15.
Your character doesn't. When you turn your character in 14, it doesn't move in that direction. So,
all right, okay, that's fair. They're bad in different ways, but who asked for this? Are people asking for this?
Him. I can't even see where I'm
to be fair, I didn't ask for them to go rent it out for the gold saucer. I just asked for.
You just asked for more.
I asked for things like that. For like,
I think having things in the world be climbable is cool, right? Like being able to jump and like reach places, and you know, like that's fun. That's a lot of fun. Being able to jump on buildings and stuff, that's really cool. But this is a weird way to do it.
Yeah, because I compare it to, you know how Dark Souls, you platform to certain areas, just to see what's up there, and they leave little items and stuff like that. They do it naturally. Mm-hmm. Now it's become more of a, well, okay, we're putting this in, so you will do it. And we're making it kind of like blatantly obvious, putting like stools and places.
Yeah, it's like, reach. So why am I jumping? Because there's a jump place. It's the place you go to jump. Oh,
platforming. Mario's been doing it for 30 years. Mario doesn't have to jump on all those things, and no one has to design them that way. But the Koopas are stupid.
When was the last time? Question for both of you guys. When was the last time you jumped in real life?
Like 2 days ago.
Why? What were you doing jumping 2 days ago?
I was jumping over something because it was in my way. Probably my cat.
Did you step over it, or did you like?
No, I did a little hop.
Okay. All right. What about you, Slyh? When was the last time you jumped?
Listen, if there were more jump puzzles out there, that wasn't, some design, like, they just decide, if they design a jump puzzle down the street, I'll go do it.
It's called parkour.
No. They have to design a puzzle because I'm not trying to die. All right.
I'm just saying that it's kind of ridiculous in video games in general, like how integral jumping is and how fascinated people are with jumping, given how little human beings actually jump.
That's why they do it, because human beings don't naturally have excuses to just jump all the time unless you're 8 years old and you were given a Hershey's kiss. That's it.
Right. Okay. But okay. So Final Fantasy 11, you can't jump. 1.0, you can't jump. It's like, oh, where's my immersive experience? I can't jump in this world. You wouldn't be jumping anyway.
Well, if you type /jump,
jump puzzles are dumb. It's not a platformer.
The floor is lava. Yeah, you've never played The Floor is Lava as a kid?
Yeah, as a kid, fine. It's not Final Fantasy 14. It's not a platformer. Jump puzzles are dumb. Stay off my Sildir ruins. I'm trying to take nice screenshots.
You can take them from even more angles now.
That's true.
There you go.
That is true.
They're still gonna look ugly because of the protrusions from them.
You know what I need? I need a jump puzzle at the oh god, my brain died.
No, you don't.
No, at
no.
The ruins of
even your brain's rejecting it. You like your own body rejecting
I had it, and then I looked at a receipt and I replaced the word that I was looking for. The Nim. I need it over at the ruins. I need to jump between all of them.
Okay, but why?
Because we can't go there now anyway, so just make it like a jump puzzle.
We should be able to go there. Like, I like the idea of having. I want every zone that we've ever been to in the game just like available to wander around in. I want to be able to go to the dungeons and just like wander around in them while they're empty.
They could put them in dungeons. Put them in Halatali.
But don't like let us jump in there, but don't like specifically say, oh, we're gonna zone you into Halatali for 60 seconds so you can do this arbitrary jump puzzle with 100 other players.
Put it in. Giggity. I'm down. I can't wait to see what else he rents out.
I think it's stupid.
I just think for me, it's also one of those things where I always say they could get a lot more mileage out of content if they just reused assets. Bam.
But there are better ways to reuse
this
assets.
Isn't content.
Fucking jump.
This is absolutely content.
It's not content.
No, it's not.
Have you never played Crash Bandicoot? There's literally there's a level at the very end. It's literally just every level
is an entire game.
It's a 3D platform.
Exactly, and it's content there, so it's content here.
Game.
It's content there. It's content here.
Fuck you, Mike. You son of a bitch.
It's content there. It's content here.
You contrarian son.
Listen, I also just want them to work on anything that isn't Blitzball. So
yeah, I get that.
So if they're distracted with this and people
that's another thing, right? If they're working on this, why are they not working on Blitzball?
They are. They just said that they're afraid no one will like it, and I agree.
That's your fault. You realize that, right?
My fault?
Yep.
If you just kept your mouth shut or pretended that you were going to enjoy Blitzball and just let us have this one, right? If you actually started saying, oh, maybe Blitzball is going to be pretty good, people would listen to you, and then we'd Blitzball boy.
That's a lie and a half, and you know it.
Nah, we'd have it. It's your fault. You're holding us back.
Yeah. Nope. Yeah. All right. If you want to believe that, go ahead. But anyway, that's all that came out of the translations for that information that's brand new, I suppose, or has been clarified to some degree. So yeah, good. I see. I like the official digests as opposed to the little Twitter things we get that then have to be remedied later anyway.
Yeah.
Ooh. Sly looks on wondering when they'll stop.
You're still going.
I listen. I'm just thinking of our audio viewers. And I'm sure they like the ASMR happy. Anyway.
We're trying to create a tableau for the audio viewers. It's important.
I like the hand motion he did there.
Tableau.
There you go. That's good. All right. So with that, we can now start to piece together kind of the primary topic of the show, and that we are going to be doing a mid-expansion review. We're going to be looking at how content has evolved thus far compared to Heavensward. We're specifically going to be comparing it to Heavensward since that was the only other expansion that we have. We can draw some parallels to A Realm Reborn, but I feel like back then they were doing so much learning that things kind of just changed at such a rapid pace. It's almost not fair to compare it to some degree. So with that, we're going to take all the different aspects, give a few thoughts on it, move on to the next aspect. That sound good?
Sure.
All right, then let's start with the most straightforward one, and that of the main scenario quests. So we will include 4.0, 4.1, 4.2, 4.3, compared against how you felt up to the conclusion of Heavensward, the conclusion with the end of the Dragon Song War.
Slyh, you're muted.
With this list, are we going to include an overall, kind of?
Feel free to use that if it helps make your point. Just it's thoughts, feelings, emotions, brain.
Yeah. Well, when I asked a bunch of people today about this, what do you think about Stormblood right now? A lot of them just focused on story because it's some of them aren't raiders, some of them don't, craft. They just come to do the story. Crazy. In terms of the overall experience, a lot of people gave it was between B and C. A few A's for story, but B's and C's. Some people feel like the story is not really forced, but rushed. They feel like Domin is better than Alamegan. Alamegan is a little bit better than Domin. I kind of feel like we've seen enough of the Domin story. We've seen a lot of it. And the Alamegan story kind of gets left behind. So
I think that's reasonable.
I'd definitely like to see a little bit more from the Alamegan side, and a lot of other people would too. It's just that between all the content we have in Doma, the Enclave, the Four Lords, we get a lot of Doma every patch. Nearly every patch, and I feel like Alamigos just got shut out.
Do you expect that we'll see more Alamegan stuff now that we're kind of taking this tangent to move into Ilsabard?
I'm not confident, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not confident. I hope, but I'm not really confident that we'll see a lot more. Maybe once we clear up the Four Lords, then we kind of move back towards Alamigo.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how they could play that out story-wise, but from a development standpoint, once we finish Four Lords, yeah, it's time to go back.
It's time to go to Garlemald. After that.
Well, that's the thing. But you got to imagine the last 2 patches that we've been hanging around in Doma, like stuff has been progressing in Alamigo. So hopefully we'll at least like learn, what's happened, what's progressed.
I feel like where we left Alamigo off in 4.1, they had kind of come to the realization they needed to progress, and there wasn't much more the Warrior of Light could do at that point. So I feel like that's probably why I did say 4.1 was, of the 0.1 patches across the various releases, has probably been the most story sound in terms of, the way it progressed and the way it felt as a post, hey, you just beat the expansion story. With that being said, I think a lot of the reason we don't see a lot of Alamigo is because Alamigo was ingrained in the lore, and we knew a lot about it without ever really going there before Alamigo itself ever came out. And since then, we've learned a few more things. Again, really 4.1 being the majority of the things that we've picked up since then. And Doma and all of Hingashi and Authored and all that, they were complete unknowns, pretty much. There was absolutely nothing about them, and everything had to be established. So
and we still know very little about Authored.
Yeah, and about Eastern Hingashi. We know some things, but we know very little overall. And I think this November we'll know a lot more, Ethys. I think we'll learn a lot more this November when this magical little thing called the Encyclopedia Eorzea Volume 2 comes out. I was shocked.
So was I. Can we take a tangent and just talk about this for a minute?
I think it's worth it because we are on the topic of story. It's
another 300 pages. So the first volume is 300 pages. The first volume covers lore that's been established through 1.0, A Realm Reborn, Heaven's Ward, and like a couple of, sort of Stormblood teasers, basically. We've had less than a whole expansion and another 300 pages.
Well, no, it's been 2 years because the last lore book was available at the North American Fan Fest.
I know.
So it's been 2 years. It's been pretty much the exact.
2 years. It's been 2 years, but I'm talking about the amount of content that has been in that window has been less than an expansion.
And it's 300, and yet it's the same size.
3 whole, exactly. So I mean, in the first one, there isn't a whole lot of information that we weren't already sort of able to find or able to extrapolate from other sources, from interviews, from the forums, from in-game sources. But it was just a nice way of like bringing it all together and collating it in one place, in one sort of reference. Volume 2, by necessity, is going to be a majority of stuff that we have never heard before from anywhere. And that is so exciting to me.
I think it'll be split. I think that the key for this one is because of Stormblood is going to be split between 2 sectors, excuse me. There's going to be like a lot of Domain lore. I think it's like how you do Eorzea, East and West. I think that's what we're going to get in Volume 2.
Right, but it's not going to cover stuff that's already in Volume 1.
Yeah.
Right.
And Volume 1 covers almost everything that we know about Eorzea even now and Eorzea's history. So Volume 2 is got to be, the Domain in the East and stuff that we've learned since, which is not all that much, and then a whole bunch of new stuff. It's going to be at least like 2/3 completely new information.
Yeah, depending on how many pictures there are, but yeah, it's gonna be pretty intense. I want to know how picture heavy it is.
It's just a picture book, and the text is like.
it's got Hien doing this behind Yugiri and stuff like that, just like doing bunny ears.
Oh my god,
that's the whole book.
I have very high expectations for it.
And what's even better about that is you won't have to wait on an 8-hour line to get it this time. Bayonne confirmed on the forums there will be pre-ordering for the merchandise line.
Yeah.
For those attending. So
I
wonder what do you do with all that extra time now?
Go see the sights. Go see a show. You know,
I like how it's away from FanFest. So
Yeah,
far, that's been his first suggestion was go do something else.
Yeah.
go do something else, because like you'll have time to do the challenge, do all the stuff. It's a lot of freed up time, and the majority of our time at past FanFest have been the merch.
Not mine.
Of course not.
Listen, I said, Mel, I don't want anything at the merchandise booth. She's like, you're gonna want the lore book. I'm like, yeah, but I'm not. It's not worth it to me to stand in this line. And she's like, I'll go do it. I'm like, don't go do it. And she's like, I'm gonna go do it. I'm like,
she did her best.
She did it. She also was like one of the first 100 people in line, so she got through pretty quick. I'm just saying. This time we won't have to worry about any of that. So, fingers crossed. We don't know how picking it up is exactly gonna, how quick that's gonna. It should just be, hey. I'd imagine they'd assign a time for you to come pick it up, so that way they can demand you be there.
Yeah, they should do it at probably 15-minute intervals. So at most you're going to be waiting behind, a couple of hundred people.
Yeah, it's gonna be intense. I just can't wait, because I remember immediately opening the first lore book and then seeing the Midgard Stormer page and being like, all right, that's it. I'm good. That was the one thing I wanted to see. And it's in here, and we haven't heard nothing about them since. And I don't expect it anytime soon.
About Midgard Stormer? Yeah, we have.
No, about the remaining two, where they are.
Oh, Verdra and Azdaja.
Yeah. One day. Yeah. All right, so with that tangent, excited. So Slyh, were you done with the main story stuff, since we got kind of sidetracked on that? Okay.
Yeah.
Ethys, how did you feel about Stormblood's story? How it progressed up until it was over, in quotes?
So before 4.3 came out, a lot of people were constantly telling me, oh man, Heaven's Ward was so much better. It was so hype with the Warriors of Darkness and Nidhogg and stuff like that. I'm like, you guys are forgetting 3.1 and 3.2 and how slow and not that dramatic they were. And you're comparing 4.1 and 4.2 to the latter patches of Heaven's Ward. And I was saying, just wait for 4.3. Shit's gonna hit the fan. It's gonna start to really, really ramp up, and it did, of course. People really got rose-tinted glasses regarding Heaven's Ward, because people were bitching constantly with every patch that came out with Heaven's Ward, with every piece of content. People were complaining, and now Stormblood, where everything is for the most part demonstrably improved, people are like, oh man, Alexander was so much better. And people are like, oh man, the story in Heaven's Ward was so much better, and all the content they released was so much better. It's I
remember how much bitching there was about Alexander.
The last expansion, right, that people think was the better one, right?
Yeah. I don't know. I remember 3.1. It's the Warriors of Darkness are here.
Yeah, bye. See you in 6 months.
See you in the 9 months, because it was 3.4.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
and it was over. They were done in 3.4.
Showing up. Yeah, I mean, they showed up for a couple of cutscenes here and there in between.
Yeah, and you're just oh, they're doing something, and then they were gone. Yeah. They helped with the whole Shinryu thing, and then just left. They were just yeah, we're done. They were yeah, we'll get the eyes, and then we'll be not part of this plan at all, by the way. But that's comparing 3.4.
I mean, so. I still think it was great. I just think that people don't seem to remember how they were feeling back then. And I mean, I loved Alexander. Alexander was great. I think Alexander was a great story. But at the time, man, people were getting the pitchforks out, saying that it wasn't as good as Coil.
It wasn't.
And now people are getting the pitchforks out, saying that this is as good as Alexander. And it's just have a little perspective, guys.
Yeah,
we're never gonna have that perspective.
No, but I don't. People just have such short memories. Yeah, 4.3 was great. 4.4 looks like it's going to be super, super hype in terms of story. And in terms of all like the side content, I mean, you compare Eureka to Diadem. Case in point, like if we're comparing the two expansions, we're comparing a format that was very experimental in Heaven's Ward that they've really, I would say, kind of mastered to an extent in Stormblood. They've produced like a better version of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And yet people are pining for the state of the game in general, how it was back when Diadem came out, and at the time people were miserable, or at least claiming to be miserable.
It was pretty miserable.
So
you got to remember 3.1 and 3.1, and even to some degree 3.2 tanked the rating community. Dismantled it piece by piece, then provided content that was a month later than the normal patch cycle, was frowned upon greatly, questioned the entire time, and generally given zero value, with one of the most hated relic increase steps we've ever had, in that of the 310 step.
Yeah. So I think the problem is twofold. On one hand, people are comparing a half-finished expansion to a finished expansion's story. That's the problem with the story.
Yeah.
And then on the other hand, with the content, people are just being belligerently and willfully, I don't know, ignorant, forgetful, I guess.
You share any of that sentiment, Sly?
Maybe with content alone. Right now, as we stand, where we're currently at in Stormblood, comparing to Heaven's Ward, I'm trying to remember at the time, what was there currently to do? I mean, nobody did Diadem. Nobody cared.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, that's the simplest way to put it. And I agree with what Ethys is saying a lot about how people are kind of forgetting what we had in Heaven's Ward, what we have now.
I just want to be super clear. I was, if any of you remember, which you probably don't if you're the people that are complaining about Stormblood now, but if you do remember, you remember that I was defending pretty much everything that was happening in Heaven's Ward. I was enjoying it. I was having a great time. I'm not saying that Heaven's Ward was crap and Stormblood is great. What I'm saying is that people need to remember how they were feeling about Heaven's Ward, and the majority, or at least the loudest sentiment at the time, was that people were unhappy with large aspects.
I guess for me, what it is. Oh no, you're fine. I guess for me, what I'm noticing is a huge sense of entitlement would probably be the best word. We don't have a lot of content. The content we do have right now, we need more. We need something different. Eureka's not doing it for me. You were saying the same thing about Diadem, albeit Diadem is a whole nother issue on itself, but
it's what prompted Diadem to be created, pretty much.
Yeah,
that sentiment.
Yeah. And I don't know, there's just like a large sense of entitlement in terms of like what we want in terms of our content. There's going to be more content. One, people are a little bit miffed about not having another Ultimate.
I
get it.
I agree with that. Like the expectation was set that they were going to do that every second patch. They said they were going to do that every second patch. So look, I think that as a paying subscriber, like, you are entitled to certain things, of course.
You are.
But you're entitled to things within context of the game and things that are reasonable.
Yeah, like realistic expectations.
Yeah.
And in terms of content, like comparing Eureka, a lot of people, and we had this conversation today, a lot of people are saying, well, what if we had Mythic plus dungeons? Okay. Like when?
Whenever.
Yeah, I know you're excited. The thought does excite people, but in terms of comparing the content from last expansion to this expansion, yeah, we don't have it. It's something you wish for. Did you wish for that where we're sitting like last expansion? Probably not. You weren't even thinking about it.
Some people were thinking about mythic dungeons.
People want harder
people-
4-man content. That's been probably one of the biggest requests is harder.
That's been a request since A Realm Reborn.
Yeah.
Right.
It's getting more rampant now, which is why it prompted Rathlos because of the whole Monster Hunter thing.
Mhm.
You know, 4 players,
Right.
you know, the rule of
Mhm.
5.
Yeah,
And
and that is
Monster
a
Hunter, yeah.
good response to it, I think.
I hope that they
But it's not
take
enough.
what they get for. Yeah, no, it's absolutely not. I hope what they take from Rathlos is things and ideas of what they can do. I think the whole auto re-raise thing is one way to combat the whole concern about about which, you know, if the healer goes down, because then you have backup plans and whatnot. I feel
That's
like
the thing they've been saying, like with mythic dungeons, just them being unreasonable. The game, the way the game works, right, is that
Right.
if you've got stuff that your healer has to deal with, your healer dies.
you're done.
It's unreasonable. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. And that's the one thing to make things more difficult is to just crank numbers. Because when
Yeah,
you have
exactly.
4 people, the amount of things you can do with 4, even with 5 people, the amount of things you can do is not incredibly high. You lose a lot of dynamics that are pretty constant in raids. Things that, you know, that your second tank is needed for, things your second healer is needed for. You can target one healer with one mechanic, and another healer can be responsible for dealing with something else. You can't do that when you have very few people.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
I do think that they could still stretch that. They can bend their own rules. They don't have to look at what is constant currently. They can create a new constant for that kind of thing. And I hope Rathlos with the auto raise and the way the mechanics work there end up kind of inspiring them to some degree.
Yeah, I think it's really good that they're experimenting with Rathlos.
For me, I'm 50-50. I've taken a hard look back at Heavensward Stormblood. I think if I were to compare just 3.0, 4.0, I think I enjoyed 4.0 more, but I guess objectively looking at 3.0, I felt that it was a little bit more compelling, I suppose. The journey, especially the first half, actually was for me just a much more interesting dynamic to watch them pick up people one by one, you know, with Estinian and Alphino and that dynamic and Isail. I feel like there was a lot done in that span of time with those with the band of 4, including the Warrior of Light. That was a really good take, something that really doesn't feel like it's been done since or was done before. Stormblood felt more standard but well done, I suppose, but like composed well. So, but if I look at 3.1, 3.2, the only part of 3.2 I even gave one shit about was the very end, which teased 3.3. And 3.1 was, oh wow, cool, warriors, and they're gone. And that's it. There was and the Urian J, beginning of the Urian J plot line that didn't finish unfolding until 3.4.
Yeah.
And we got to see that beautiful face.
Oh, so handsome.
Oh,
Oh,
you don't need me to help you with that one, audio listeners. you can put his face in your memories. Whereas 4.1, I think, is one of the best not expansion story quests with all the dynamics with Raubon and Nanamo and Alamigo in general.
Yeah.
Also, the bullshit reason to go do the dungeon ended up being pretty compelling, I'd say. Because it was a total, he's like, yeah, no, I totally just want to board. That's it. That's all I want.
Yeah, and of course there's more to it than that.
Yeah, and then what you end up learning in that dungeon is quite interesting, or discovering this part of Alamigo. Like we said, there hasn't been a lot of that. So the one opportunity they took to do it, I thought was
They did it very, very thoroughly. You know.
yeah. And then 4.2, 4.3 was a very well put together, I guess, Domin conclusion. It was very satisfying, very invoked a lot of emotion. So for me, Stormblood kind of wins overall, mostly because of 0.1, 0.2, and 0.3. And but I will say this: nothing beats Hraesvelgr and Nidhogg over Ishgard. Nothing has beaten that since, and I don't know when it will. Shinryu, you can suck my dick. It's not nearly as interesting as watching those two fight. For me.
I think we can agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
Yeah. So that's it for main story, but we do have to consider side story as well. You know, we have to look at things like the Scholasticate was in 3.x. You have to look at Hildebrand and how he unfolded throughout Heavensward. or at least during the earlier portions of Heavensward. You have to look at the refugees. I think refugees was Heavensward, wasn't it? Did they start the refugees in A Realm Reborn, or did they start that in Heavensward?
They started in A Realm Reborn, I think.
Oh, okay.
Realm
Wow,
Reborn,
yeah, that's really far back. Okay, then ignore that. And then you have to look at the story of the Warring Triad. Then I suppose is the last thing, and I guess the story of the Anima Weapon has to be kind of taken into account, because the Anima Weapon was this whole creating a living being thing.
Yeah.
And then you have to compare that to Eureka thus far, which is kind of rough because we only have one Eureka, which has been one of the drawbacks that I guess we can talk about a little bit later. You have to compare that to our current Hildebrand and how it's panning out so far. You have to compare that to the Four Lords, and you have to compare that to Domin Reconstruction, I suppose. So this one I feel like a little bit tougher if you want to pick one over the other for any individual, but I'd like to try and get overall thoughts on, I guess, the world building stories on the side for Stormwood. Also, you have to consider things like the Chocobo Ranch and whatever, any of those quests that you want to, like just generally the world building from side quests. I guess the world building from side quests is kind of just a good generalization.
Four Lords does about as much world building as Warring Triad, but Warring Triad as a story kicked its ass.
See, I thought so far I thought Warring Triad was just it's one of those things where everything that you didn't see is way cooler than everything we're currently dealing with for me. I felt like it was a big waste of people like big waste of people like what's his face? Regula. No, Regula.
Right.
No,
I don't think you think Regula was wasted.
Yeah. Big time.
That's just okay.
Yeah, I thought Regula was
completely
wasted on the Warring. Like, he had so much room to be so much more, and they just didn't let him.
But he grew like so much in that quest.
He grew, but he didn't grow till A, the very end, and B, he was just gone. We can't even talk about that part just yet.
He set up the Resonant. Like, he was like, the Echo, this is a tool that the Emperor is going to want to use. And like, that was, a huge part of his like character growth was going from the Empire treating the Echo as like this aberration to them being like, oh shit, actually this is the future. I
felt like they didn't do a good job with delivery at all.
Okay.
But I mean, we're still also talking about the earlier parts, how it was kind of building up. Warring Triad, again, I felt like everything you didn't see was interesting about them, whereas I'm far more invested in the characters so far with the Four Lords. We can revisit this again after 4.5 and whatnot is complete, obviously. Revisit Four Lords versus Warring Triad. That's how I felt about that's how I feel about the two at the midway point.
Don't you think the stakes were a lot higher for Warring Triad, though?
I guess we could better envision the stakes because a lot of us are familiar with the Warring Triad. We're familiar with primals, specifically primals. So I feel like we have a better idea of it. Whereas with the Four Lords, we're being told the stakes are high, but the closest thing we've come to seeing that is what's his face being possessed by the Aramatama, not Biatko, the Kojin. I can never remember his name. Sorbonne. There you go.
Yeah,
that's the closest. Yeah. That's the closest thing we've seen, and it's not. And then I'm distracted by Tataru the whole time. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. No, she did her best.
So the stakes, I feel like I could tell they were higher there. I can't tell how high the stakes are right now with Four Lords.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
What about you, Sly? How are you feeling about these side story quests?
I don't know. Right now, I feel like comparing the Four Lords and Warring Triad, the Four Lords feels a lot more compelling to me. Yeah, there was a lot of lore to be had in the Warring Triad. I just felt like I really didn't have a rooting interest in it like I do with the Four Lords. And that's probably personal reasons. Going back to the small side tangent of characters like Regula. Mike, I agree with you. I don't like how he was handled because I don't like how a lot of characters beyond Regular and before Regular are handled. Stop giving characters fucking redemption arcs, please.
I mean, as much as he had the thing is we have to remember we're talking about mid expansion because when we look at Regula by the end of it all, He had a redemption arc mixed with a I just fucked you guys so hard. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd call that a redemption arc for regular.
It was more like it was his
It
honor.
went
His
from
honor
more-
prevented him from being worse than he was.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was like, hey, look at this. The Garlands are not actually psychopaths, like all of them, except for Xenos.
I rather have a fucking psychopath.
Okay.
I'd rather it be cut and
I love
dry.
Xenos
You
for
were
that,
evil.
But he didn't. They were, but with regular, there weren't any like inconsistencies. There weren't any change in his character. He was after the Neuralinks.
Yeah, the change was at
And then
the
he
end.
realized that the Neuralinks were fucked up and he couldn't use them. And was like,
Mhm.
oh, but maybe we can use the Echo. So I'm going to defend this kid that has the Echo so that the Emperor can make use of him. That was what he was about.
Yeah.
There was no like moment where he was like, oh, I've been wrong all this time. The warrior of light is the true power in the universe. No. Although that was Gaius. That's a
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
We don't know. We can't comment on Gaius yet.
Well, that was Gaius at the end of Rome.
Oh yeah. Guys at the end of the
Yeah.
Realm Reborn was like, maybe we've been wrong all along. Blah
Yeah.
blah blah. Yeah. We need him, kind of
And then
him or her.
and then kind of with Gordola and
See,
Suyu.
That was
See,
redemption.
Yatsuyu, I love
Oh.
the way they handled her because her inner turmoil
No.
won, but like there's that like that speckle of light that was like kind of at the
There was some
very end.
conflict there.
Mhm.
Yeah, like there was an internal conflict, but it didn't win out in the end. Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Fordola's been consistent as well. She's wanted to do what's best for Alamigo and defend Alamigo and make sure Alamigo survives. It's just her knowledge of, the best way to go about that has changed.
I think I was watching your stream at this last night, as you know, and someone suggested that Gaius is going to be the one to give her a purpose again, and I really liked that.
I'd be into that. Yeah.
I
I would love him to like reestablish the skulls, but as like a like a counter Garland incursion force.
and he has a lot more respect for the Echo now than he used to. So the fact that she might be artificial, but I have a feeling there's a deep seated respect for him there, even though she's,
Oh, totally, yeah.
And the idea of using her against the Asians is just he's not going to turn that down. No way
No,
he turns
fuck
that
no.
down.
No, she's got the Echo. Like, it's more than he's got.
And yet he's killed 4 of them.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, the Shadow Hunter has killed
Oh yeah, no.
the Shadow Hunter.
We don't know that it's Gaius.
We don't know. We don't know if that's Gaius. There's no way to know for certain, guys.
Don't get ahead of yourself, Ethys. It might not even be. It's fucking Gaius.
But yeah, quick side tangent. But either way, like I honestly prefer the Four Lords over the Warring Triad.
Mm.
Other side quests, I kind of gave up on Scholastic at midway through.
It's
A lot
so
of people
important. It's so
It's good,
important to Ishgard. Like it is so
Yeah.
important as a world building tool, but it's important in a way that's not necessarily exciting. Depending
I
on
think that's a fair way to put it.
perspective.
Mm.
It's like actual knowledge
I think
versus
Scholastica
spectacle.
was more interesting than like the Domain Reconstruction. I think would be the equivalent, I guess, in world
Yeah.
building.
I 100%
The
agree.
Scholastica was way more interesting, and I think similarly, Hildebrand in Heaven's Ward, at least to me, was far more interesting than it is at the moment.
Even with the amount of Hildebrand we got in Heaven's Ward.
Man, yeah, but we can't do. We're doing mid expansion. You got to talk about up to about the halfway
true.
point, and up to the halfway point, Hildebrand and Heaven's Word was just hot garbage, man.
You think so?
I think so. I think Hildebrand. This is the weakest start Hildebrand had was in Stormblood. It's really showing expansion by expansion. It's showing more and more how not prepared they are for people to keep asking for more, because the intro to it for Stormblood is just like, oh, Nashu's here.
You guys sure?
That's it.
You sure you want this?
Yeah. Sure you want this? And then 4.25 and 4.35 Hildebrand have like when I compare them to 3.45 Hildebrand, which I was dying when I saw when it was like, he's getting away. slowly, but he's getting away. Like I remember all of that one, and so far both 2.5 and 3.5 have been good for me. There's also this deep-seated, not expectation, but desire based on the way the story's progressed for another Hildebrand-related trial, considering what's currently transpiring there. And that gets me a little bit more excited, whereas I had kind of given up on that. They had very clearly said back in 3.x that Hildebrand was not going to get one. And this time... They very
clearly said leading into Stormblood that they had no intentions of doing it ever again.
There's a few sources where they've said they've considered it. They've never said we're doing it. They've said we've thought about it again. Because people have... It's mostly because people keep saying people liked it in A Realm Reborn. You know, I think 3 trials is a bit much, and that's what we got in A Realm Reborn.
It's content.
But yeah, I mean, but the problem they had is validating that content. That's the big problem they had with it in A Realm Reborn. Like, they threw minions in there to try and give it a little more life, and it worked for a slightly longer period of time, but it was difficult to validate it as something people would continue to do. So... And it was required to get to the parts later, and they already know how people feel about that with the main story. So there's a lot of conflict there. But I'm hopeful, and so far I've been enjoying Hildebrand a lot more than Hildebrand in 3.x. I was very happy with the way it was at the end of Heavensward, but at the midway point I was like, don't even bother with Hildebrand anymore. If this is how it's going to be, that's how I felt midway through in Heavensward. That's me.
Which patch was it when Gigi turned buff?
That was... I actually think that was... I think that was 3.3. And that was a good scene. Because he got kidnapped in 3.4 and then went offline in 3.5. So that was a good scene, but that didn't make Hildebrand good. Like, that one scene didn't redeem that it had been the least interesting things they could have done up to that point.
I mean, it was interesting to me because they introduced time magic, and between that and Alexander, we were starting to think like seriously about time magic in Final Fantasy 14. So there was a lot of stuff to like digest there for me. Whereas Hildebrand up to this point in Stormblood is just
hijinks.
Yeah, and all the comedy that they've used is recycled from previous Hildebrands.
It's his antics.
Yeah, but there's nothing
like the cross-dressing. Although this cross-dressing I liked a lot better than... There was one part in particular with the Mandragoras with the kissy face. That's the best part of that one. This one, when you see him, you're just like, oh no.
It's the same. It's the exact same.
And because of the cultural differences, the guys are like, I didn't ask for that today. Whatever. Like, wait, I didn't ask for that today. Whatever.
Yeah, and the other guy's like, oh, didn't know you were into that. And he's like, no,
it's not Wednesday. And the Wolf Burglar, it's very interesting seeing more than 2 seconds of the Wolf Burglar from Final Fantasy VI. In Final Fantasy VI, you catch him in 2 seconds, and then he's falling off a cliff, and you're like, him or a new party member? I'm going to go with the new party member. So it's I don't know. It's just how I feel. It's not not necessarily validated, I suppose, objectively, but it's just how I feel about Hildebrand now. That's where I'm going.
Fair.
Yeah. So side stories, I believe that covers that for the majority. So then we have to actually get into kind of the meat, because a lot of the things that people compare is content, just overall. Like, they look at Palace of the Dead, Heaven on High. They look at the quality of the primals in 3.x versus the quality of the primals in 4.x, dungeons, number of dungeons, blah blah blah. So I'm gonna let Slyh. Where do you want to get started here? Because it's literally a huge thing that there's no way we can just kind of narrow it down or try to compress it into one topic.
I'll go primals.
You go primals, okay.
Mike, I feel like kind of like this is gonna be easy for you. It's easy for me too. Thornton was so much fucking better than Byakko.
You can't compare Thornton. I like to compare Thornton to Shinryu, and I do think that I do like Thornton better than Shinryu, and I do like Sephiroth better than Byakko.
It's the other way around for me.
Sephiroth was poorly designed from like a content perspective, like the way
it was so much fun though.
But it was great. I just remember it. It was so good. I just remember the trailer with Sephiroth. He falls off the edge, and I'm like, just my face was like. Then again, I felt the same way when I saw Buff Yako, but then I did the fights.
Yeah, and you're like, okay, wake me up in 3 minutes.
Yeah, the fights in Stormblood have been kind of a big letdown. I'll admit, I did like Shinryu for like its weight, what it had in terms of weight of the story, I guess you'd say. Plus, the music was really good in the beginning. Unique mechanics, so to speak. I'll still agree with you that altogether, Gordon probably is a better fight than Shinryu. And then we have
if they just cut out the air,
we're on the ground.
If they just cut out the air phase, the Byakko fight flows so well without that air phase in there. Like it really does, because the second half of the fight is pretty well put together. It's just you're by the time I get to it, I'm so uninterested in the second half of the fight.
It's well composed, but there's nothing like visually or mechanically that sort of interesting going on.
Balls, man. No. Balls everywhere.
Get it. Everybody played Nier Automata. I get it.
Balls. Just everywhere there's balls.
Square Enix loves balls, dude.
Circles and balls.
They do.
They fucking love balls.
There you go. All I know is I may not like Lakshmi, but I will do anything other than Bismarck. I will play anything that's not Bismarck, please. I hated Bismarck.
That's fair. Yeah.
Susano and Ravana I can't choose between. They're so equal to me. Like
similar, yeah.
I mean they're similar thematically, but also like both of them are just good. Like I'm entertained by Ravana and I'm entertained by Susano. Like Susano's like haha kind of thing, and Ravana is just like he's so in love with combat he kind of doesn't care he's fighting you. He just cares that he's fighting kind of mentality.
I just want to fight.
Yeah. Like they're just more interesting both of them are just to me equally interesting primals that I enjoy on screen. Shinryu and Thornton had more conviction. Shinryu was Xenos, and he's just like fuck it, here look what I can do, and then it's badass. But Thornton Thornton wins there. Sephiroth wins for Byakko just because of the air phase for me. And Nidhogg, and I like the impact of Nidhogg more than Tsukiyomi. They're different. They're very different, though. It's hard to compare them to one another because of what you're supposed to be feeling while you're fighting them is so different. Like Nidhogg's supposed to be almost Bahamut-esque, where it's like what's on the line is like millions and millions of lives kind of thing. And that's there for Tsukiyomi, but in the moment you care more about her in a sense.
Yeah, I think I tip it over to Tsukiyomi.
They make it really clear when you're going into the story mode Tsukiyomi that she's pretty weak, like as a primal.
Yeah.
And that she's going to be defeated. That's not what's at stake. What's at stake is the Garland response. And whether or not she's going to live or die. That's what's at stake. So, I mean, I did the Nidhogg fight so much more than I've done the Tsukiyomi fight, and I just think that just indicates to me that subconsciously I obviously much prefer the former.
I mean, Dragoon Nidhogg was a pretty big spectacle. Estinian Hog.
It was pretty epic.
For like a not Bahamut dragon, they did a good job making him not just like every other dragon. Pretty much, and I was appreciative of that. Tsukiyomi is just what you're like. That it's the transition phase. I think is the big pushing point for Tsukiyomi, because seeing that internal struggle and Gosetsu and his impact on her, and seeing that play out from what's happened before, what happens right after.
That's also such a boring part of the fight as well.
It is, and it's nice that the implications of it are a lot more. Are so prevalent that I kind of, while I'm doing it, I'm more thinking about that than I am thinking about the account. When Byakko happens, I'm like, how can I do it? Can I do this without moving once? like if I just press my Q key like 6 times, is that enough times to get hit 0 times?
Just about.
Or you make a Congo line and you see if the first person can keep the other 7 alive. And while you're farming, you rotate who's in charge of the Congo line.
That's good. I like that.
The only way to make that part fun is to do stupid shit. It also gives me an excuse 7 runs out of 8 to go get some water or something.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the implications with that one. So yeah, I think Heavensward wins for me on primals in terms of gameplay implications. Story implications, they're pretty close because I have ones I dislike, ones I like more.
Okay.
But up to this point, yeah, I think Nidhogg is the thing that kind of pushes it over for me for Heavensward, to be honest.
That's fair.
All right, well, I let Sly pick that aspect. Ethys, what aspect would you like to compare between the two?
Let's talk about dungeons, I suppose.
Dungeons. All right, Stormblood wins. Moving on.
Yeah.
That was easy.
Less dungeons.
Up to this point so far.
Yeah, mid expansion review. Yeah, less dungeons, more. I mean, all right. I can see you're the lore guy, so I'll let you rattle these thoughts out. Let's go.
So Sorokai was pretty good, both the lore wise and like spectacle wise.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right that more dungeons was generally redundancies, right?
Yeah,
It's
like
just dungeons for the sake of having dungeons.
Yeah, there are dungeons I liked that I didn't get enough out of in Heavensward was the problem. I really liked St. Mosion's Arboretum, but we learned so little. It's why I'm actually looking forward to 4.4 and going back there.
Yeah.
When I look at what we learned,
I was trying to milk like anything from St. Mosion's. I was like, oh, there's stuff here that implies it's a Mirror City. There's stuff here that implies it's a new world. Like, oh, is this the Boloko? Are these the people that worship Sephiroth? To which Koji was like, oh, they're not sentient. I'm like, well, Koji, if they're not sentient, why are they using staffs? Like, how can they?
The wood remembers.
Well, yeah, whatever. Yeah, so I was a little bit disappointed with that. But, I mean, Stormblood, like, Scala, like, lore-wise, I was just like, yes. So good.
I also they always did it, but for some reason, even this seems silly, but even the triple triad cards that come out of the dungeons, I feel like I'm getting a lot more out of them. Like when you look at the description for the last boss of Scala and what you learn via the description on there, I mean,
yeah,
everything you wanted to know is going to come off that card, which is a great thing to have. And then I look back at Heavensward and I go, oh, Anti-Tower. It was what it was supposed to be. It was cool.
Decent.
What it was supposed to be was cool. But once you're in there, it's a staircase to heaven, and that's it. Like while you're in there, you're not really learning much about anything. You just kind of know what it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's true. The fact that it exists, the fact that it's a thing is sort of, a fun bit of lore, and there's things that you can sort of extrapolate from that. But the experience of running the dungeon itself, you're right. You don't feel like you're sort of progressing. You don't feel like you're discovering, really.
Yeah. Although it is worth, we're kind of looking at max level dungeons now. We do kind of have to pay note to the 51 to 59 versus 61 to 69 dungeons, and that gets a little tougher because some of those have. I think it gets a little bit tougher. I look at the Stormblood dungeons, and on average, think I like them, their implications better across the board.
Yeah, I think the Stormblood ones are way better, the leveling ones.
Yeah, I think that, Stone Vigil, they're pretty clear to you why you're in there. And there's not very much information about the Vigil in the Vigil. Like, you can learn about the Vigil elsewhere, but...
Yeah, there's a bit of, like, 1.0 tie-ins, which are pretty cool, but that's more like an Easter egg than anything else.
And then you have Samal, which is not. What it is straight. Again, it's straightforward. It's the path that'll take you up to the Churning Mists, and it's also home to Nidhogg's consort. And okay, you'd expect this giant volcano mountain to maybe have something a little more for me here. Then you have the Aerie.
And then you have a library with no fucking books.
The Cabal library that had no books. You have the Vault, which is one of my favorite dungeons aesthetically.
Yeah. Okay.
But
Yeah.
if you know anything about the cathedral, there's nothing more to pick up in the vault itself.
That's true.
And then you finally get to once you get to Fractal, like Fractal is where that's where it's kind of it all is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's Azys Law. Azys Law as a whole kind of is your lore depository for a lot of Heaven's Word, and then no one gives a fuck about Neverreap. Who gives a shit? Do you want to disagree?
No, fuck Neverreap.
No.
So I feel like just Stormblood wins in a lot of regards here. Like Ruby the Shisui has, you know, it's got a lot. There's a lot of importance there, which we've explored further after the fact.
Siren Song C, even I think.
Yeah, Siren Song C is more for me like a world location. It's again less about the lore because not a whole lot's answered about what the structure kind of intentionally. You can kind of pull from it what it was supposed to be, but not so much why it necessarily is the way it is. Because it doesn't feel like we freed it from anything. It's still kind of fucked up the way that it was.
Yeah.
Doma Castle itself, I'd say it probably wasn't too much. I'd say that was more of a story implication. It was just more interesting than the Aerie, which I'd consider its equivalent, even though they're different levels. I wouldn't say the vault is equal. That's reasonable. Yeah. I'd say that the Bardam's Medal for me is probably the least interesting of the bunch across the leveling ones, both from a gameplay perspective and from you again. It's one of those things you know what it is, but you're like, our aren't doing this shit. Come on. This is totally different for them than it is for me.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably right. But it's also like you go in there and you realize how much more sophisticated the Zayla culture is.
Slightly more for me.
Slightly more. Yeah,
Slightly more sophisticated. They've got a giant rock in the middle of a fucking open plain.
Yeah.
That's to me that's sophisticated enough. All right. The structure has a lot of things you don't know about it, and it's just there. As soon as you live on that thing, that
certainly is there.
It certainly is there. I think for me, Stormblood just wins in dungeons. There's less of them because of the design, and they're better. Even Alamigo, the final dungeon is like I'm far more invested in that than I am in fucking ARF.
Alamigo was busy. Was really fucking busy.
You're in the middle of an active war battle.
Yeah, and it actually feels like that. And that's the thing when you had dungeons like that in Heaven's Ward, it didn't really feels like immersive as it does. Like Doma Castle and Alamigo both, like you really do feel like you're in the middle of a battle, which is really cool. You don't really get that sensation anywhere else.
And ARF is just. I just didn't care.
It's all right. It's okay.
The dungeon itself was okay. Like I wouldn't say Regula was a bad boss. I wouldn't say the second boss was a bad boss. I wouldn't even say the Ascians and Ascian Prime was great, but
yeah, Ascian Prime is pretty cool.
But it didn't do a whole lot for me on the way in. It's again, you know what it is on the way in, but what you're going to at the end where you fight Thornton, that's the important thing. The final destination of that. I also had to do ARF way too many times.
We all did.
We all did.
But Fractal was better. Fractal was the better dungeon by far.
And Fractal Hard Mode, we got that, and it expanded on it.
Yeah,
and it was an incredible world building experience, and it showed a whole nother side. It wasn't just hey, we're going back. It was a whole nother side of Fractal and a whole nother function that it served. And the Ixal finally learning that they're abominations. Their words.
When are the Lalafell going to learn? When are we going to have like an addition to Azysla to those goop pools with the Lalafells?
The Lalafells are born.
We should take Lolarito up there and be like, you still think you're the shit? Look at this.
He'll just be like, I've evolved. That's all. I've evolved. All right.
All right, so Ethys, I've done primals. He's done dungeons.
No, Ethys did dungeons.
I said dungeons. Yeah.
Oh, he said dungeons. So happy. What do you want?
As if you don't know what I'm gonna pick. fuck.
Of course. All right.
Of course I'm going to look at the raids. Of course I'm going to do that. And I think for the health of the game, Stormblood wins by a fucking mile and a half. I will never.
The game, yeah, sure.
I don't get me wrong. I love A3 Savage. I love A8 Savage. I haven't really liked A7 Savage, except for the whole when you disconnect, the boss gets a stat because they don't want people cheesing the shit. Annoyed the fuck out of me. But and A6, like I love a lot of the fights there, but when I look at the encounters in Stormblood, unfortunately, there's no ultimate equivalent unless I want to look at like A4 Savage, I guess. And even then, it's one of those things you're progressing on while you're gearing, so the experience isn't the same. So
could you really leave
awful though?
Could you leave ultimate out of the?
I mean, if I compare raid to raid, I'll take Midas pretty much over everything.
Okay.
That's for me personally. But for the overall health of the game and the number of people that I can interact with and the good it's done, I think it's hard to argue against the Stormblood raids. Comparing them on an even playing field. And then ultimates for sadistic people like me who just want to watch everyone else burn after I've like gone through it. Love watching be like, oh, he's gonna fucking die here. Oh, he's gonna fucking die. And then at the end you're like, oh no, he's gonna fucking do it. Oh, he's gonna fucking do it. There you go. That's it. That's the mix of emotions there is strong.
That's a good Arthur's impression, actually.
Is it? I'm well then hold on. Don't forget, guys, you can sub free with Twitch Prime. But anyway.
That's true.
Yeah, it's very true. If I'm already there. And yeah, I think that, and also by the way, A1, A2, A4, it's so fucking boring. Like don't get me wrong, 01 is the worst fucking fight in the game. But it's like I look back on those fights with just not fond memories.
But
personally.
Pepsi Man made up for all of it.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about him.
You can't do that.
I kind of don't want to. We also got the Brute Justice theme, which I'll never turn away. The Brute Justice theme. I think if we look at the OST and the story, I still think Alexander, as much as like back then I wasn't too excited about it, I think Alexander's first two parts were better than Omega's first two parts. I have been not nearly as invested in Omega's story. Like I want to be, but I'm really not.
It's so difficult to be.
It is incredibly difficult to be invested in Omega. Even Omega doesn't seem invested in Omega's story. He's just like, I'll see you later. That didn't work. So
it's been established like what's going on and what's happening and what's at stake, and it just hasn't really progressed. We're just going to continue doing that.
Yeah, it's like I can summon monsters all over the world and wipe out humanity. But if you participate in my tournament, I won't do it.
And it hasn't really moved beyond that. I mean, don't get me wrong, the lore exposition about how Omega was, pre-Allergan and he's kind of responsible for Allergan's advance into the space age and all that. Like, that was awesome. That was one of the, like, biggest, I guess, hype lore moments we've had in the lifetime of the game. But it just hasn't, like, grown. Like, it's just more of the same. It's like we're going back in there and doing that thing still that we were doing.
And he wants to see how strong we can possibly be. He's like, I must see you at your full power. I must understand it. It's driving him crazy. And he's just a robot. So it's just he's following that program. Omega himself just hasn't. I don't care about him. I want the fights have been good. Neo X Death was good. God Kefka was good. Things like Guardian, like all the fights they've been good. They're just not like A3 and A8. That's it. It's hard for them to be because they're not as much a struggle, I suppose. So it's very hard to capture the same emotion. But I still think Stormblood, if you include Ultimate, and just even without them, the health of the game has improved so much. Ultimates improve people's interest in raiding, even if just via like YouTube and Twitch and just visual platforms and discussion platforms. And then the other raids have encouraged people who never thought they would raid to take up arms and actually jump in, which is good.
Right. And like you said, in comparison, just A3 just kind of shut a lot of people out of fucking raiding.
And then A6 did again.
Yep. And then I guess, like you said, Sigmascape, not Sigmascape, Deltascape, excuse me, kind of renewed that a little bit.
Yeah. So many people like, oh, I can raid. I can do it.
Yeah, it's not that bad.
Right.
Now it is. It's way different back in the day. It's at least a nice way of getting people back in, because before it was Bahamut's story that kind of drew people in and made them want to try it, and then they got burnt out when Alexander kind of just shit on their face, and it shit on everyone's face. Even the people who beat it, it still shit on our faces, pretty much. And then Omega's like, oh, I can actually do this. Yeah. And I like that. I always like things that are better for the overall game. I'll sit here and be a whiny bitch, but I want other people to have a good time.
I totally agree with you. I haven't had as much fun raiding since A3. Like, just nothing has topped that.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
I just think it was the best fight in the game ever, period. I think it was great. I think it was amazing. But again, all the ones since have been a lot more approachable and a lot more fun to like the majority of players, and that's the best thing.
I agree with that. All right. So we've gone full circle between all three of us. Probably can look at maybe a couple more topics. Slyh, is there anything else you want to compare between the two? You can look at external portions of content, maybe the unique content, or other aspects that have evolved or maybe been revisited. And Stormblood Eureka versus the Anima weapon. They got a bunch of topics on the table still.
I can give you a few of the communities.
24 mans. Here. 24 mans is another.
Oh yeah, 24 mans is another one. Yeah,
that's tough for me.
24 that is a bit tough actually.
Yeah,
because the Heavensward ones were.
Voidark sucked as a raid, but like, but
it was hype.
But the way they
like the hype was there.
Yeah. And then Weeping City was
nice. It was good. It was good.
Yeah.
It was good. But Ivalice, I think Ivalice wins. As much as I'm learning about Mark, I think Ivalice wins.
It's just so much more composed, and it has to be because of who's in charge of it. He's not going to let that shit. He's not going to let that shit fall to the wayside. I don't know why we needed all this bacon bread, but we're not going to let that shit fall to the side.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Slyh?
In terms of 24 mans or in general?
24 mans and then in general.
Hands down, Ivalice. I guess nostalgia has a little bit to do with it. There's so much nostalgia there, even though it's not related to the actual source material. But I just feel like I got tired of doing fucking Voidark. It's
all Voidark's fault.
Yeah. A lot of people got tired of doing Voidark. Eventually, I got tired of doing Weeping City, but Weeping City was so much better.
I never got tired of doing Weeping City. I never got tired of it.
I did.
I don't think I did.
I always love betting with myself how badly the last two bosses would go.
Yeah. I think a lot of people did that too.
I'm like, okay, on Osmond, do they know how to do meteors? And then I get to the next boss, like, do they know how to do haircut?
The answer is no.
Yeah, it's just no. And now do they know how to count? Do they know math? Can
you know math?
Can they see the pot over his head? Do they know what dive bombs look like? It's a lot of factors. And then we go back to Hashmal, and it's like, do people know how towers lean? People know how gravity works.
Side to be on? Do you know which side to be on? Do you see which side of his arm is like on fire? No. But yeah, just to kind of give like a little bit of perspective in terms of what we've been talking about and everything. I asked the community, hey, what would you give right now if you could give a grade to Storm? What would you give? Give some answers. Give a few answers. B. Role actions instead of cross class is nice change, but I disagree with some of the directions some jobs are going.
Is it now though, or is it about to be?
The main story is superb, which is the main reason I play this game. But the Ivalice stuff just pisses me off. Wow, somebody doesn't like Ivalice. C. I like the story, the battle changes made overall. Even if I wish some jobs were a little stronger, but with no more ultimate till 5.1, with the lack of huge changes to the system or patch contents, kind of lowers it for me. But still have hope. And by huge changes to the system, I mean more along the lines of changes to the patch cycle or content. That was another good one. For the entire experience, I'd say B. Decision mostly based on story. So far, like a lot of C's, a lot of B's. No outright, oh, I love this shit so far. Holy shit. No. It's there could be improvements. There could be a lot of, like, community feels like there could be a lot improved.
Well, it's good because people should always want improvements because you should never be completely content with what you have. You can appreciate what you have, but you shouldn't ever sit there and be like, well, there couldn't be more. It's just about how you present it.
I kind of feel like WoW gets away with that so hard. Like, it's been in the game longer, yes. And
in terms of people being complacent and being like, content update once a year. Fuck yeah, it's so good.
Well, it's not like that anymore, but yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, but like, and that's the comparison we have to draw. Like, not just Stormblood and Heaven's Ward, but fucking WoW. Because I have a lot of people who saying, well, there's nothing to do. Battle for Azeroth is coming out, so I'll see you in a bit. Once we get through Monster Hunter and everything, and yada yada yada. So, and I think it's really tough to make that comparison because, again, one's been in the game far longer than the other, and like the way content is put out, it just doesn't work the same way. Somebody did tell me in my community, like, yes, Blizz actually listens to their community, and they were willing to give up two major patches just to kind of fix it and everything. And I think they were talking about Legion. They're willing to give up 2 patches. And the question I always asked was, okay, well, you say things are bad, quote unquote, the game is in a bad way, quote unquote. Are you willing to give up the same? No, because half of the complaint is content and how we're getting that content. You give up that content, even when you say like, I just want more content, I want better content. You give that up for like a really different patch cycle just for them to kind of do things. It goes back to the whole argument, well, we don't have enough content. We're never going to be fucking happy. That's my key point here, is that we are 100% not going to be happy no matter what we do.
That's fair.
Blizzard has a not so great track record with the whole listening thing.
I think our community team's a lot better.
Well, so here's the thing with Blizzard. Blizzard listens. I absolutely agree that they listen. They tell you you're wrong for a pretty long time before they listen, but they eventually come around.
Listen, yeah, they eventually listen.
Like you don't know that. Right. You don't know if you actually want that. And then like, no, like we really do know that we want that. It's like, okay, we'll do it. It's some growing pains. They do it. They absolutely do it when asked. They absolutely listen. They're a little resistant at first. They also, so one of the big differences with WoW and 14 in that regard is WoW likes to just throw things out there that are new just for the sake of making them new. And then how they land is, whether it be job changes or adjustments or systematic changes, they just kind of throw ideas out there and see if they stick. And then if they don't,
kind of like what we do. Yeah.
They do it a little more every year.
Yeah,
which is nice because sometimes it makes you feel like you're getting kind of a new experience every year or two. When every 2 years or so when the expansion goes out, it feels nice because you do feel like you're getting a new experience, but it doesn't always pan out. One of the ones that landed was definitely Mythic Dungeons. World Quests landed pretty well also. They just throw ideas till stuff sticks. And 14's doing the same thing. They threw new ideas out in Heaven's Ward till one stuck, in that of the Treasure Dungeons and Palace of the Dead, in terms of replayability. But then they gave us Shatter and Astrologos, so not everything sticks,
Fuck you, Mike.
And then they looked at what worked before and like, okay, how can we improve this? Well, people said, make it shorter, make it more difficult, or do certain things differently. Like, okay, we'll do these things, but we need more ideas. I think we need more ideas thrown at the wall.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I feel. Rathalos is one of those things that's a collaboration that throws some ideas at the wall, which is kind of nice.
Mm-hmm.
I
agree with that.
Yeah,
they were being far more radical in Heaven's Ward in terms of trying new things, and Stormblood's just about like tightening up those things that they were trying in Heaven's Ward.
Yeah, and then looking at more like, because I mean, you got to look at, we've gotten a lot of pretty cool things in Stormblood, but when they've initially been thrown out, it's been like, but do I care though? like Astrologos, it was like, capture the flag's a really good mode, and we don't have that yet. Why don't we do the basics first a little bit? And I was like, nope, here you go, giant robots. And it's like,
not we esports now, please.
Esports boys.
There's some things that could use some, I'll call it westernization in Final Fantasy XIV, idea wise and concept wise, and Blizzard gets that. A lot. I still want I want PvE leaderboards for something. I don't care if it's like time attacks for dungeons, or if they want to do seasonal ladders for Heaven on High, where like the top ranked people with the highest scores and highest floors like earn something. I'm down with that. I want stuff like that. Like, WoW's got the fucking Mythic Invitationals, dungeons for the competition. That shit's great.
Well, they're doing it for PvP because, I don't know, I think we're all still in denial about PvP in 14. It's like, no, it's really good. It can be an esport. All right.
I'll be the one to put this out there.
Just give it a try. It's really, really good.
I'll be the one to put this out there. Listen.
Well, I have said that. I can't even lie. I have said that.
All right. I'll just say, listen.
Give it a try.
Listen. For MMO PvP, WoW's probably the closest they've ever come to being esports, because they just decide it will be, so it is. That's how Blizzard does esports. They're like, well, we've decided this is esports, so it is.
Yeah, and we're Blizzard, so fuck you, it's an esport.
And that was significantly better, and is still significantly better, and will always be significantly better than Final Fantasy XIV. And even that isn't that insane. I think the Mythic Invitationals are more popular than their actual PvP. Their actual PvP competition.
That's what I'm saying. It's ridiculous that they're so obsessed with trying to grow PvP and trying to push it into being something that it's not, and that it's not going to be. And the way they're incentivizing it is introducing these systems that they should be introducing in PvE content, like you say, with leaderboards and seasons and stuff like that.
It's just take these ideas and apply them elsewhere.
Yeah. Exactly.
They just haven't.
Good idea.
That's all I want. We just don't need. It's just not great. It's not there. It's not. It's just not great. That's all there is to it. Right.
And at some point, you've just got to accept that.
Listen. It's so not great. It hasn't even been a talking point yet in this show. We're talking about state of PvP across 2 expansions, and it has not come up at all. And
we don't have Frosty on the show, to be fair.
It's also in such a not great state at the current moment that it's not great to talk about.
That's so, like, it didn't even occur to any of us to talk about that in reference to today's topic, did it? We didn't even think to. It didn't even factor in.
I didn't once.
No, well, there you go.
Sure.
That's sorry.
No.
And
we could put Burn and Frosty on the same show. How's that gonna go?
That's gonna be the equivalent of having -1 guest, because Burn will not talk whatsoever. We are gonna give him lung cancer before he says a fucking word about PvP in the show.
Oh god!
All right.
So
shit. Yeah, that's it's not great. I'll say this: I much enjoyed Feast more in 3.1 to 3.3 than I even remotely care about it now. the PvP modes that were introduced in Heavensward, at this point, Feast, at the midway point, it would have been Feast and the best PvP mode that there has ever been in that of, oh God, why can't I remember it right now? My brain's mush. Silrock, yeah. I was thinking of the other word though, because not Seal Rock is a type of Seas.
Secure.
There you go. Seas. There you go.
Seas,
See, that's what I kept.
Seas.
I kept getting Secure because I call it Seal Rock, but I was trying to reference the mode, and it's Seas. So there you go. The far superior PvP mode in that of Seas, Feast in its initial implementation, which, while rough around the edges, still was more popular then, up to 3.3 than it is now. And we have Astrologos and whatever's happened to Feast in the past year. I don't know. Everyone tells me it's not been great since 4.2 is like the stopping point.
When's the last time you've actually done Feast? Like, I'm trying to think when I've done Feast.
Not at 7. No, you know what? I did do a couple matches at 7 because I wanted to test the new maps. I did do a few. And also you have to consider the PvP changes, which, as much as I wanted sort of consolidation of skills, I'd say it didn't pan out maybe as well as I had hoped for PvP. I don't know. It's just something's missing, I feel, when I'm doing PvP nowadays. It's just, I don't know. It's bad. that's my,
it's just bad.
It's my diagnosis right now. I want it to be better, but it's not.
But
so
so let it go. Just let it be what it is. Let it be side content. Stop insisting on it, being a big competitive scene, and just let it be what it is.
Just go back to the basics. Stop trying to be fancy. Just go back to the PvP has been defined. There's certain modes people all expect, and go back to the basics.
Yeah.
If you're gonna do anything, just go back to the basics. That's it. Oh man. All right. Is there anything else, topic-wise, you gentlemen would like to bring to the table?
No, not really. In terms of our comparisons,
Sly?
Nope. I think we pretty much covered everything from comparison standpoint. So
yeah, the only things I can think of are literally comparing the treasure dungeons and the deep dungeons and stuff, which for me Stormblood's going to win. It's the same thing, just more refined. It's not even really a discussion point. And I guess that kind of brings us to the next thing, because now we have to look towards the next expansion. People are looking towards you're looking towards the lore book, and then because now at this point I know you're expecting a volume 3 at 2 NA FanFest from now. You're already thinking about volume 3. I already know about that. We have to think about how content are we with that way of doing things, with figuring out what sticks and then just improving it in the next, just taking feedback into account and expansion later, and maybe throwing a couple more ideas, seeing if those stick, and still otherwise sticking to what we know and what is normal.
I think it's the way you have to do it. Otherwise, you're just playing it safe and you're just reproducing the same content over and over again. What they really need to do, if they want more things to stick more quickly, is have a public test server for it.
That doesn't necessarily make ideas stick better. It just makes the ideas there. It just gives us the opportunity to play it before it officially comes out.
Well, so it means that we deliver feedback faster, so it can be refined faster.
Assuming people who are actually providing feedback are actually providing it. Because people, a lot of people just play stuff when it goes live, and that's where the majority of the feedback happens. So there's other slippery slopes. I'm someone who wants a PTR, but I want it under the right conditions. It should actually be a test realm, a place where people are expected to provide feedback and fish
Yeah,
for
I think
feedback.
I think it should be invitation only. It should be very clear about like, you know, what you're there for and what the point is. Yeah, if handled well, then it can definitely improve the implementation of content, but it does need to be handled very carefully. You're right about that.
Yeah, like I don't like raid bosses being in my PTRs, for example. That's just
Right.
I trust you well enough that I don't really care if I find a bug in a fight, unless it's like the A6 Savage bug with the water, where the water would transfer to the same person. Like that I care about finding, or anything with Twintania, because that was a fucking nightmare as a whole back in 2.0.
But if it's new kinds of content, it can definitely be helpful.
Specifically, like if Diadem had just like literally the PTR was you can only do Diadem. That's it. That's the only thing they want. They want early feedback on that.
Really?
No,
That's
but I am saying that is a good example because that was when they threw an idea at the wall and they could have gotten feedback before pushing it out to everybody. And you don't have to let everyone mess around with everything. You maybe do job changes and whatever idea it is you're trying to stick to the wall. One new PvP, like if they're going to do a new PvP pack, make it so the PTR just lets you queue into that PvP map. That's the only thing people could talk about with the PTR in that case. If you're doing something brand, I don't give a shit if they want to, don't throw the new dungeon at me. Like I know how that's going to go. Don't throw the new raid at me. I know how that's going to go. But if you have something you deliberately hope that people enjoy, you want people to enjoy, those are the sole things you throw at people. New systems, things like the duty recorder to make sure it works properly. Things like colorblind modes, you know, feedback on that. Systematically brand new things. Even just the idea of saving server side to make sure that goes perfectly okay. There's no bugs with that. That's something they could test a little bit more internally, but just things like that. The glamour dresser. Just literally you can log in, you've got a shit ton of items on your character, and then that's it. It's just like it's then that's it. And then you just go and you mess with the glamour dresser and you provide feedback on it. That's it. Butt sliders. Just go on and just playing with ass today, guys. Playing with one day. One day.
Jesus.
There you go.
Can we get that quoted, please?
God.
There you go.
Would you want to see new jobs before an expansion on a playtest ROM?
So I personally say no.
That's a tough one though.
It's a tough one.
Every time that we have had new jobs, they have had to be fixed.
So for me, the thing is you can't just test new jobs. You have to test the changes for all jobs, and I do kind of want that on a PTR.
Yeah.
I don't. I remember when we did the media tour. We came back. We said this is all subject to change. Nothing's finalized. I still remember the uproar. But I guess the uproar was technically feedback because they did kind of look at certain things, and that feedback eventually carried into some decisions they made later. So it's like, for example, I don't want people going on the PTR testing the DPS on everything and then being like, well, this is the lowest DPS, so it's shit, or like something like that. Like that's kind of improper use, and I feel like that's kind of where it goes. People aren't so much curious about functionality as much as they care about the end result.
Well, I guess the way around that would be to have it like an invite-only PTR where the community team selects people that they know are not going to be raging douchebags. And
then that's a whole nother process.
I mean, but then y'all had to sign, like, I didn't go. Then y'all had to sign NDAs anyway. Y'all went?
Yeah, we went to the media tour. Yeah, it's signed NDAs.
Yeah. But that's all, simple enough. It's pretty straightforward.
It's tough because this can't be something everyone can log into, but it needs to be enough people for the feedback to be acceptable.
It needs to be like thousands of people.
Yeah. It's tough. That's why PTRs are tough in general, because the number of people who use them to actually test and provide feedback and the number of people who just want to it's a really small percentage.
They're crazy tough, but it's worth it in like every instance that they are like utilized, right?
Yeah, I mean, even if the people who go there and the people who do present the feedback, one of the big things I see with World of Warcraft, a game that uses the PTR a lot, is outside of the raid encounters, whenever systematic changes are made, all the content creators are usually on top of it, and they're fishing for feedback from everybody else of initial thoughts. And that's a better feedback forum than just people playing the PTR a lot of the time. But it also is then feedback coming from people who didn't try it. So it's double-edged sword. So,
Okay.
I just think could benefit from a PTR, but it's delicate.
Mm-hmm.
It's very delicate because you need thousands upon thousands of people testing something to get enough accurate information.
Mm-hmm.
But I want it. It also just give us
it's
something
hard,
to talk
but we
about.
want it.
Also just give us something to talk about on really tough weeks of State of the
Yeah.
Hey, so on the PTR this week there were these job changes. Instead, it's like
that's what it really comes down to. We want more exclusive content.
No, I want more discussions around 14 to be able to happen more frequently. Is the big thing.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Like when Ultimate comes out, it's a huge discussion. When a new raid comes out, it's a huge discussion. When new Palisade, that new Deep Dungeon comes out, it's a huge discussion. But we wait so long between these discussions. Pagos and the Monster Hunter event are our next big discussions. So I just want constant flow of discussion. And I feel like you get that a little bit with a PTR.
Yeah,
on top of a shit ton of problems, but you know.
Yeah. And you talk about those problems.
Oh shit! That's a great idea for next week. We have to rate minions next week. We gotta. What's the best minion? What's the worst? We gotta rate minions and mounts. That's a show topic waiting to happen.
I'm definitely sleeping in for that one.
Ethys, would you like to come? No.
Nah.
But what about the lore of the minions?
No.
No. All right. Well, there are absolutely other things that we could discuss. There's still the jobs individually, the state of the jobs when they first came out in each expansion, the job changes overall, role actions. There's a lot of combat-related things.
Stormblood wins.
All right.
Does it?
Yeah.
It doesn't win for Ninja for me, but only because I hate Ninki.
Okay, doesn't win for Ninja, and I love the Bow Mage, but objectively, Stormblood wins.
I can't wait for all 10 role actions, man.
That's going to be a little weird, isn't it?
It's going to be a little weird. Tiny bit. I'll always have my healing twos. I'll always have Feint. I'll always have True North. I'll always have everything.
That's true. We won't have to choose between, True
Goad. Yeah. Always have Goad.
Yeah. Well, you have it. You have it.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. So there are a bunch of other things here, but at this point we have to get more specific. We have to go to talking about individual jobs, and we could be here for another 3 hours if we try to break down. Like we could probably talk 2 hours just about both of your fucking Dragoons, because the way your shit was at the beginning of Stormblood.
But they fixed it really quickly.
They fixed it, and they added shit that we didn't ask for.
Yeah.
And I knew you were about to go there because you're good. Oh, well, they added this, and this, and they completely made your job so fucking easy. No, what?
I never said
ask for half
easy.
that shit.
It's not.
I never said easy. I just want to say I didn't say that. I said that's it because we got monthly monk buffs and everyone still laughed at us. And then Dragoons are like, well, we're slightly not as good. Oh, thanks for everything.
There we go. There it is.
There it is. Thanks, man. I'm glad we took an entire expansion to not improve Monk to then release Samurai, and it's basically Monk 2.0, and everyone's gonna meme on that now, even if a Samurai is good. So we're just gonna keep doing this. We're gonna give Samurai utility and then make somebody else like a no utility tank where they only protect themselves, and then they're gonna call it Dark Knight. But anyway. That's it. I don't want to get rescued for all eternity. I don't want that with roll. That's my biggest fear with roll actions is rescue. It's my biggest fear. I don't.
It's gonna be fun, isn't it? It's gonna be good.
Yeah. I'm never rating with fold again. I'm never.
And healers won't have to argue about who takes protect.
Yeah. I'm scared. With that, like I said, we could go into a lot more specifics, but we're coming up on the... We know we won't because we're coming up on the 2-hour point of the show. So, gentlemen, if you don't mind, I'm going to read off our sponsor lists, and then you can do your outros, and then I can go hopefully kill Ultima in less than an hour so I can go eat.
Good luck.
Thanks Thanks, man. Last week was like 4 hours, and I was like,
Good.
this is taking too long.
Fucking luck.
This is taking too long, guys. I don't need to beat this every week, but I am. So I got my weapons.
Content.
It's content. There you go. All right, so before we wrap things up, ladies and gentlemen, just want to do a thank you to our sponsors over on Patreon for combating hashtag demonetized for probably about 7-8 months at this point, somewhere in that vicinity. They support us over there, so that way we don't do like any ad reads. Other the Steel Series thing is a giveaway mostly, so less of an ad read, more of a giveaway kind of thing. Like, hey, there's free shit, go try to win it. So I don't think anyone complains about that. But we got to thank our sponsors. So the first one is, of course, our Patron of Light, Khuja Cross, and the Advent FC on Jenova. And I have the graphic if OBS would let me click it. That would be fantastic if OBS would let me click it. They always send mad good screenshots. This one actually doesn't fit in the frame. So there's technically a frame around it, but it doesn't fit. It's only on the top and the bottom. But
that's a great one.
Yeah, they're going to take great ones on the jump puzzle, like we talked about earlier, Ethys.
Fuck off.
Thank you, Ethys.
I can't wait to see
words right out of my mouth.
I can't wait to see the gates of Sylde with good screenshots and jump puzzles and people ruining those good screenshots because they're doing the jump puzzle. All right. So thank you, Khuja Cross and the Advent FC on Jenova, for being the patrons of light, the patron and patrons of light. We also have our standard sponsors, and Sly, I'm looking at you, so don't. All right.
I'm not doing anything.
I'm warning you now. That's it. All right, we have our standard sponsor. We have Just One Fox, Shadow Link on the Tonberry server, Dom, Asuka Wake from the Jenova server. I'm sorry, I was looking at Sly and I got distracted. For some reason, I thought I said Jenova twice. Lamillion Nella of Midgard Summer, Serren, the Avalanche family on Marlboro, Johnny Yatzia, Zodiark of Org 13, Kifka and the Great Eagles on Exodus, Darkgraver, Katayoshi from Khuja, Skia Symphonia from Ragnarok. Can you see my eyes shifting back and forth? Rah Xephon from Exodus, Rylanator Westeros, the Purple Warrior, Eadric Redsteele on Exodus, Lexxie Valentine, Mantaru the Rivivus FC from Zodiark. Don't point at your own face. Sour Cream and Tribes from Jenova, Rynoet Chikara, Goetia, Valefar of Siren, Hersh, Fersh of Faerie, Phoenix Down FC on Goblin, and Serren from Zodiark. Have our elite sponsors. We have Kana Uzuki of Jenova. What was that face, Sly? Kana Uzuki of Jenova. We have U Starlon, Coral, Sothal, Sarah Frost from Behemoth, Diablo, Holy Tabasco, Red Thorn Nasura, Kurenai Oni, Askin Hawk, Oscar, Cry015, Mustang, Serenity FC on Ultros, Kakazuma, Serial Kira on Cactar, Ignis Farragun from Diablos, Celestial Fanfrit, Nocticords from Excalibur, Krovos Moonscar, Private Mikey, Spike, Nadia Kurosame, Rudy Rudiger, Tin Colossus, Killer Hackman, Raul Jr., and Kiltastic Jones. Good job, Sly.
Thank you.
Why'd you point?
I'm saying thank you to the patrons, not you. Like there's like
fuck you.
God damn it.
Fuck you, Mike. Sounds like something
Jesus, like you, I swear to God, you like every week I hear you read that off, I think of you as like a horse racing announcer. That you just,
I could do it.
Yeah,
you gotta do it.
And they're off.
No, I need to actually have a horse race in front of me, and I need to know all the horses in advance. All right, yeah, I could do it. I do the rap god thing all the time, so I'll just do that instead. All right, but with that, we need to start signing off. So, Ethys, you'll be the first one with your Elgato green screen behind you.
My Elgato green screen.
Yeah,
which is more expensive than I was expecting it to be, but worth. They're good. It's a good product. Not sponsored.
Doesn't help that it's in dollary dues, I'd imagine.
Yeah, it really doesn't. Anyway, I'm Ethys. That's me, Ethys Asher. I stream pretty much every day on twitch.tv/EthysAsher, and I do YouTube content on Ethys Asher and also Ethys Live. I've been playing through Morrowind on stream and putting it up in edited parts there, and that's a lot of fun because I love that game. That's great. And Twitter and everywhere else. You know who I am. I'm here regularly. It's me. I love you all. You know me. Yeah, I love you guys. Thanks for watching, and thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming.
And now, Sly, Simple Sly, as we call him at the start of the show. Simple Sly, why don't you tell them where they can find you at, what you're working on?
Twitch.tv/Slyh, aka Gray Fox, Twitter @Slythefox, YouTube.com/The Velvet Room. Yeah. I stream things too. 7 days a week, except for yesterday because I need a fucking day off. But yeah, I'm getting ready for Generations next month. Generations Ultimate, excuse me. So we're playing Generations. So if you have Generations on 3DS, we play that every Sunday until Ultimate. So add me. I have my friend code. I will give you my friend code. You give me yours, and we'll be friends.
I like Pasta says Sly streams weeb shit.
He does.
That is true.
He's a
I
giant
will
weeb.
not deny that. I will not deny that. That is true.
You should lead with that. Hey guys, I'm Sly. I'm a giant filthy weeb, and yeah, I get drunk on stream.
All right, that's why did I even let Sly speak for himself? I should have just let you do it.
Yeah. Ethys should have done my outro.
Oh, that's all right, man. Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah,
Thanks.
We can always next 1 week. I'm gonna have you each do each other's outros. It's not a bad idea, actually. It's not a bad idea. And then you can both do mine. Since it's 3 people.
Well, Ethys, did you want to give that a shot? Like, you want to go ahead and give that a shot?
He's done mine before. I know he's done mine.
Nah, I've done my versions.
Oh, look at me! I have a podcast, and that's
Hey guys, Mr. Happy here.
What the fuck is that voice?
Here's
hey guys! You sound like you're embarrassed to be Australian. That's about as close as that sounds to me.
I'm from Jersey, and here's some sponsored content.
Sponsored content.
That was so Australian. It wasn't even funny.
It's so not really Australian, but like it is at the same time.
Yeah.
There you go. And it's been on Sly's face that whole time because I was too busy laughing. So they got to see Sly's reactions to it and nothing else. And now I'm on the screen. So I guess I'll tell people where they can find me. You can find me Mr. Happy127, Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, everywhere. What do we have coming up? Well, we just wrapped up Octopath in, I did about 4 or 5 days of like 16 hours a day for that game. So I finished.
Fucking crazy.
It's done, and I'm just busy working on some YouTube content for that. The Melee Versus is finally out. So now that gets to get invalidated in like 6 weeks when they do more job adjustments. And then what do we got? We Happy Few comes out next month, so I naturally have to play it because it has to be We Mr. Happy Few. I can have it no other way. We have the Dauntless update same day as Monster Hunter World PC, and I'm probably gonna play the Dauntless update instead of Monster Hunter World PC because I don't feel like playing. Stop.
No, Dauntless. Fuck yeah.
Because I don't feel like playing vanilla Monster Hunter when I'm already HR 99 on the PS4 version. It's the main reason. It's the main reason why I don't want to play that. There's Monster Hunter Generations at the end of August. There's also the Behemoth event. There's Pagos. There's what's it called? The Rathalos. So got some stuff coming up. Got some stuff coming up. So be on the lookout for that. And with that, gentlemen, before my raid team starts harassing me in Twitch chat, I guess we can finally wrap this up. So Ethys, thank you again for joining us this week. Nenext week we'll figure it out. Next week.
We always do.
We figured this one out. The Minion. That's right. The Minion show is next week. That's right. I forgot about that one. Yeah, that's right. Good call. So anyway, thank you everyone for watching. We'll have a very short post show, and then we will see you for next week. So until then, bye bye.
Bye bye.
See you next week.